Hey, good afternoon to you. It's now 5:07 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. You can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. President Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, was testifying today during his confirmation hearing in the United States Senate. And he said, should he become the next SecDef, well, things are going to change.
Our standards will be high and they will be equal, not equitable. That's a very different word. We need to make sure every warrior is fully qualified on their assigned weapon system, every pilot's fully qualified and current on the aircraft they are flying, and every general or flag officer is selected for leadership or promotion purely based on performance, readiness, and merit. Leaders at all levels will be held accountable, and warfighting and lethality and the readiness of the troops and their families will be our only focus.
Yeah, in the room with him, other than a couple of deranged protesters who got their emotional incontinence out real early in the hearing, thankfully, most of the room was populated by a lot of veterans who were there to support Pete Hegseth. My next guest is among the veterans who marched into D.C. to signal their support for his confirmation. Bill Brown is here. He's a former Navy SEAL. Sir, good to have you with us.
Hey, good. It's great to be on. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. And so tell me a little bit about yourself and what you organized today in support of Pete Hegseth.
Well, it wasn't just myself. I had a whole team of Navy SEALs and veterans with us. And I think it's a huge statement when you have literally over, 400 veterans that come to Capitol Hill, at least 50 SEALs. It's a huge statement that we made.
Yeah.
And the reason why we made it is because we're so concerned about what's happening in our military. And it's really about protection. That's really what the military is there to do. It's about protecting us. And that's why we became so concerned because, look, when you give trillions of dollars worth of military equipment to jihadists that are bent on destroying our way of life,
Yep.
you're definitely not. And they had American blood on their hands. I mean, that's the truth. That's not protecting us. When you let a Chinese spy balloon go over sensitive military installations, that's not protecting us. Like that's totally against what the military is supposed to be about. Or even with all these sophisticated weapon systems that are portable, you can't have a wide open border. Like you could say one thing like, hey, if you don't vet people, you'll have incidents like in New York where someone gets burned alive. But we're talking about weapon systems that can destroy cities. Like you fell asleep during 9/11. You saw what just happened to Israel when they fell asleep on October 7th. Like it's worse. It's not just about politics. It's not a Republican or Democratic thing. Mm-hmm. It's an American thing. And that's why the warfighting community is really concerned.
Yes. The nomination of a Secretary of Defense is not typically a partisan affair. It hasn't been in the past. It's not typically that controversial. Lloyd Austin was confirmed by almost every senator, Democrats and Republicans alike. And yet I saw today all these Democrats were working very hard to try and defeat Pete Hegseth's nomination. Why do you think that is, Bill Brown?
Well, to be sincere, you saw what happened with the election where they'll do anything and everything possible to retain power. They used lawfare, which undermined our due process, undermined our criminal justice system, undermined our entire legal system, and actually the Constitution of the preamble of we the people decide who we want to be elected. They used woke-fare with what they're using with Pete. So, they're short-term thinkers, and they just want to retain power any means possible. There's a lot of entrenched establishment within the Pentagon, and so what's happening here is they've shown that they'll put any other interest above we the people to retain power. That's why they opened up the border. They opened up the border because they saw what happened with California, and they're hoping to do that with other states. And their ideas were so bad they weren't resonating with voters. And so they, that's what, you look at the mandates, it was supposed, with the COVID, it was supposed to about even protecting people, protecting Americans.
Yeah.
Well, when you have a wide open border, you can't vet what type of people with diseases are coming across the border or what type of possible terrorist entities are coming across the border. They put that they didn't care. It's not like they didn't know that could happen or will happen.
You're right.
They figured it's more important to get those votes. And they're putting us all at risk. Why? To retain power. And here's the thing. It's really not about Pete. It could have been anybody. If they're successful in knocking Pete down, they're going to walk right down the line. Now, here's why we have to hold the line. Because the leadership in the military right now, look, they're not protecting us. When I was a SEAL and they taught me how to shoot, they said focus on your front sight. Nothing else. You focus on your front sight and nothing else. And that's how you become an accurate marksman. Well, in the military, you focus the way it should be. You focus on combat efficiency and lethality, and nothing else matters. If you can do the job, if you're proficient in the job, that's what matters. When you do anything else besides front sight focus, you're not going to be that lethal. You're not going to be that accurate. You're not going to be that proficient. You're going to make decisions like where you have trillions of military equipment to jihadists helping and destroying our way of life. So, look, if we don't stand up now, our country's in trouble. Like, our country's in real trouble because there's other adversaries like China, and there's two things that you need to be successful in war. The first is you need the tactical advantage. Well, guess what? We're losing out the tactical advantage to China. There's new generation warfare and capabilities that they have that we do not have. Two, one of the other things you need to be successful in war is you need discipline. In the military, discipline is the fundamental block. Guess what? If you do not have discipline, if you do not have accountability, name me one general that was held accountable for that fiasco in Afghanistan, where guys are literally hanging off an airplane to get out of there, or literally they gave trillions. When I saw parades with the Taliban with Humvees and American helicopters, it broke my heart. Look, that's a problem.
Yes.
And we need to fix it. Pete can fix it.
There was only one American military officer who was held accountable for that disaster, and that was the man who spoke out against it. Remember Marine Lieutenant Colonel Stu Scheller? He was discharged and imprisoned as a result of his public criticism of the chain of command. But he was the only one that I can think of, Bill Brown, who was ever held to any sort of account, and that was for criticizing how disastrous that all was.
That's right. You know what's so funny? Guess who was in the room with all those SEALs today and all those veterans supporting Pete? Stu Scheller was in that room. You know how many Navy SEALs were marching with me? You know all 3 Navy SEAL congressmen were marching with me, right?
Yeah.
Congressman Derek Von Orden, Congressman Morgan Luttrell, Congressman Eli Crane. They're all the 3 Navy SEAL congressmen, and they were marching with us. You know how many? I had 50 Navy SEALs marching with me. I had over 200 veterans marching with me all over Washington. Why? Because we're trying to say to everyone in this country and the senators, look, this is the first time this has ever happened where we had this many veterans really take a stand, because we are deeply, deeply concerned with our nation. Because if you don't have the ability to protect yourself, then we're all at risk. Like, I don't want to see another 9/11. You saw what happened in L.A. when they put DEI policies at first.
Yes.
You know what? You'll see a similar pattern wherever that's entrenched, where you have mismanagement and travesty and chaotic situations.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go across the board.
Well, when you put incompetent and distracted people in charge, you destroy any chance of succeeding in the mission. That really is the lesson here. And Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan, he brought some of this up today. He mentioned the Biden administration's obsession with all of this stupid nonsense and what it would mean to get rid of it. Here's that exchange. Take a listen.
President Biden did his first executive order as president was to focus on transgender surgeries for active duty troops. This is all I'm describing the woke military here under Biden over the last 4 years. If confirmed and you issue an order saying we are going to rip the Biden woke yoke off the neck of our military and focus on lethality and warfighting, how do you think the troops will react?
Senator, I know the troops will rejoice.
They will love it.
They will love it. And we've already seen it in recruiting numbers. There's already been a surge since President Trump won the election.
Bill Brown, is he right? Will the troops rejoice?
You know, that's why they have issues with the recruitment now, because they realize how backwards they've become. Absolutely. You know what? When you have a good coach, when you know that your coach is going to do right by you, guess what? You want to be on that team. You want to be on that team. That's an issue now. Who wants to be on a team that gave trillions of dollars of military gear to our enemy? Who wants to be on a team that withdrew and guess what? They gave up the airports first. Like, who wants to be on that team?
Right.
Like, we need, and here's something else. You know, I heard the Democrats talk about, and the Pentagon officials talk about lowering the standards to get in the military. That's the wrong way, because warfare now is becoming extremely advanced. We need to raise the standards. And one of the things we need to raise the standards to recruit the type of talented people we need to recruit is similar to the corporate world. We have to have the same type of initiatives that will attract. And, you know, think about this. Alexander the Great, he conquered much of the known world at the time. And one of the things, the incentives that he gave to his soldiers is they didn't have to pay taxes. Now, guess what? If you gave the ability where you served honorably for 10 years and you didn't have to pay taxes after that, you get a whole different recruitment pool. Okay, we got to start changing it up.
Yeah,
because
you're right.
Yeah.
That's a big idea. I like that idea. That's cool. And to your point, I mean, really, any, you know, whether it's a football team or like you talk about the coach analogy, or just any institution, impressive institutions attract people who'd like to join them. And if we can keep telling people about love of country instead of trying to divide them against our country, if we can make the military very impressive again, then all those recruitment issues they're talking about, they can be solved, can't they, Bill Brown?
They can be solved. You know, I'm all about equality, and I love our female veterans, and there's no one I respect more. And I was a JTAC, and I've worked with female pilots. The truth is, look, I was a SEAL. I was in a premier direct action unit. There's differences between men and women. Not to say that some women can't meet those qualifications, but the number is extremely rare. But here's the thing that the woke military was doing. They wanted their results, so they lowered the standards to get the results. Well, this is war. The military is about warfare. If you're putting those soldiers and sailors and Marines at risk, along with those that serve with them, if they're not qualified to do those type of positions, that's the issue. Look, there's certain jobs that I would have a hard time doing. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to be a fighter pilot, because my math in college probably wasn't, or in high school wasn't met those requirements. If you start putting people who don't have those requirements that are needed in that standard, in that proficiency to be lethal and efficient in warfare, they shouldn't be there. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a real problem. That's going to get people killed. Now, Pete had the courage to stand up to it when others wouldn't.
Right.
That's what's happening here. You know, and that's the whole problem with this whole woke mentality.
For sure.
Is they cancel people because they want to retain power, and they don't care the results, the collateral damage that they'll cause.
It's awful. Hey, Bill Brown, finally, you know, you bring all these, you alongside many other veterans, you show your support for Pete Hegseth today. Do you think that the Democrats on that dais got the message? Do you think they saw the veterans that were in that room? Did that give them pause?
No, 100%. Look, my buddy Rob Sweetman, another SEAL, was one of my, partners in this. We did something historic. We did something that's never been done before. Look, we had at 4 o'clock, actually 3:30 a.m. We woke up had everybody on buses there lined up because we knew the agitators were going to be there. And because we stacked that room to the very back. And so when they got crazy, guess what? It was so easy, and the Capitol Police did a great job at escorting them right out of there. And you noticed that how we represented our community with honor. You noticed you didn't see us. We were the adults in the room.
Yeah.
And when you compare their behavior towards ours, I think the message is loud and clear to reasonable Americans. Like, hey, these woke ideology, and they scream and cry and they berate and intimidate others and cancel culture, because number one, the same reason why they open up the border. Their ideas are so bad they can't win in any type of debate. Their ideas are so bad that people are moving away from the party, so bad that they got to get in as many illegal immigrants as they can because they think that'll help them. Like, that's how their ideas are failing, their policies are failing, and they're destroying our military.
Yeah.
And that's why, look, this country's at a crossroads. If we don't capitalize here, we could be in trouble.
Bill Brown, thank you for your time today. Thank you for serving your country. I know Pete Hegseth has to be so proud to have the support of you and all those great veterans. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you. It was a wild hearing. I've got some more audio coming up of Pete Hegseth's insane interactions with Democrats. I'll let you guess which side was the insane side. Chris is in Marshall on line one. Hey, Chris, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
You know, we always strive to improve ourselves and to grow and to learn. And at 58 years of age, I found something out about myself today, and that is I have a new goal. My goal is to remain composed in the face of an assault by an idiot like Mazie Hirono or a degenerate like Blumenthal. How dare they even attempt to wipe Hegseth's feet? I'm being polite there.
I know. You're totally right. I heard them talk a lot today. They were like, are you going to violate the Geneva Convention? Are you going to violate the Geneva Convention? I don't know. It kind of seems like a war crime to be questioned by Mazie Hirono. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, no, you're right. It is a real test. I'll take waterboarding, please, instead of Mazie Hirono's idiotic questioning. I have got that coming up. We've got a lot coming up. Including more of your calls, 888-630-9625 on WMAL. Oh, yeah. Good afternoon to you. It's now 5:36 here at News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. In fact, our friend, regular caller, Donna, is in Frederick. She's on line 2, and she's been waiting very patiently to join us today. Donna, good afternoon to you. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hi, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to wait patiently. I love this show, and I have to say, I have so much respect for our military, especially those who are standing with Pete Hegseth today.
Yeah.
I watched the beginning of that, where they were getting rid of the people that were probably paid actors in that room, and they did it very efficiently, and I just liked how they conducted the whole thing. The part that blew my mind was where I was laughing with, Denang Dick, and, the irony. It's amazing. It made me think of Chris Plant, like every day's, it's just crazy, like a bad TV show.
Yes.
It was such theater. I think the American people see through all of it. We love our military. And just to say one thing to top this statement off.
Sure.
Pete Hegseth said he wants peace through strength. Well, boy, doesn't that sound like President Trump? Doesn't that sound like Ronald Reagan? We could go on and on. Likely Kennedy was, felt the same way. I'm talking about JFK. God rest his soul. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that with everyone. For those who missed it, pure entertainment, and the left is going down in flames, and they know it. That's the amazing part.
There's some. I think they're throwing in the flag too, Donna. In fact, here's a CNN's report this hour on how things went today. And it sounds like Pete Hegseth is doing very well and is likely to become the actual Secretary of Defense. Here's their report.
What are you hearing from senators now that the Hegseth hearing is done?
The expectation that he will get confirmed. In fact, I just asked Senator John Thune, who's the Republican leader, the majority leader, decides the schedule of the United States Senate. I asked him about Hegseth's nomination. Thune has not said a ton about this nomination. I said, does he have any concerns about these allegations of sexual assault that Hegseth has denied but came up in today's hearing, about these allegations of misconduct and the like? And he indicated he does not. According to Thune, he said that Hegseth acquitted himself extremely well, and that he plans to move very quickly on this nomination. And it is moving quickly. We expect the Senate Armed Services Committee to have a vote as soon as Monday, Inauguration Day. That is according to the chairman of the committee, Roger Wicker, who told me that he believes that he'll get the support of all Republicans and be able to push this through.
So even on CNN, they're already saying, yeah, it looks like he's going to make it through. And actually, if I think about it a little bit more, I mean, one of the things is, as they said in that segment, John Thune is setting the schedule for who goes first and who's going and what order they do these things. And sure enough, the big first high-profile hearing, anyway, was Pete Hegseth. It'd be a real embarrassment if they chose someone who didn't prevail in this Senate vote. And I think this all bodes really well for Pete Hegseth, Donna.
I can't wait to hear that. There are so many good ones coming. I keep thinking about Kash Patel. Oh, my goodness. We're going to see fireworks with that one. I can tell you that.
I know.
God bless these guys. This is just amazing. We're at such a great time in this country.
Yeah.
I don't know that everyone's aware of the gravity of these, despite the show trial aura of these hearings. You glean so much when you see the behavior of those who are trying to upend these amazing people.
I know, and they're so, and Pete Hegseth is so much more patient than I would have been, and I'm kind of famously patient actually, but I could not have dealt with what he was dealing with today. Hey, Donna, thank you very much. I always appreciate your calls.
Thank you.
There's Donna and Frederick. Yeah, no, I was kind of hoping sometimes that he would start, rhetorically at least, just dropping the gloves and going after some of these guys. What a bunch of phonies! Just the frauds these people are. They've got a whole full-blown congressional slush fund that's dedicated to resolving what, if it's an innocent explanation, is like nuisance suits and allegations. We'll just get this out of the way. It'd be awful to really to bring the office down with such an allegation. It's not true, but we'll settle it. That kind of thing. That's the best case scenario. Worst case, you've got all these lawmakers who are doing awful things to the people who work for them, and then they're paying massive settlements using taxpayer dollars. And then they act like the fact that a public figure like Pete Hegseth had to deal with a nuisance claim a couple years back, that's a sign that you're a real degenerate. Really? How about we start doing this with members of the Senate? How about we assess it that way? In fact, let me start with crazy Mazie Hirono. I've got some good audio for you. One of the many ironies of the clip I'm about to play for you is Mazie Hirono starts accusing Pete Hegseth of being a drunk, and that he's completely out of control. He can't stop drinking. He's a raging alcoholic, and it's going to be a real problem if he becomes Secretary of Defense. Now, notice, if you will, that Mazie Hirono herself sounds drunk during this entire sequence.
You recently promised some of my Republican colleagues that you stopped drinking and won't drink if confirmed, correct?
She's slurring her speech.
Absolutely.
Will you resign as Secretary of Defense if you drink on the job, which is a 24/7 position?
Senator, can we pause the questioning for you to do a quick sobriety test? Just want to make sure that, you're fine.
Made this commitment on behalf of
Will
the men
you
and women I'm
resign
serving.
as Secretary of Defense
I've
if
made this
you
commitment
drink
on
the
behalf
job?
of the men and women I'm serving.
I'm not
because it's the most important deployment
I'm not
of my
hearing an
life.
answer to my question, so I'm going to move on. While you have made that commitment, you will not commit to resigning if you drink on the job.
He's not even in the gig yet. She's asking him to quit. She's already like, well, do you commit to resigning? She continued.
By people who worked with you at Fox News. Do you know that being drunk at work is prohibited for service members under the UCMJ?
Senator, Those
Yes
are
or no?
multiple false anonymous reports peddled by NBC
Do
News
you know that
run directly
She's not interested in the truth. Stop, Pete. She just wants to slander you.
contradictory
job
to the dozens of men and women at
not
Fox News
contemplated
Channel
on it?
who I work with
I'm
who
not
came
hearing
on
the
the
answer to my
record
question.
and said they've
In your
never
opening
seen
statement,
that.
Mr. Hegseth, you commit to holding leaders accountable at all levels. That includes you, of course. And frankly, as secretary, you will be on the job 24/7.
Mazie Hirono should have a breathalyzer that allows her to turn her microphone on if she's sober. You know? Like, you know, they install the breathalyzer into cars to keep people from drunk driving. They should do that for her microphone. You know? See how that goes. I will get to... Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma had an amazing, amazing response to the Mazie Hirono thing, but I can't play his audio until you hear Virginia's esteemed Senator Tim Kaine. He's a bad person. He's just a bad person. He's attacking Pete Hegseth's whole family today and trying to really just be like, you cheated on your wife and your children.
You've taken an oath like you would take an oath to be Secretary of Defense in all of your weddings to be faithful to your wife. Is that correct?
He's so vile.
I have failed in things in my life, and thankfully I'm redeemed by my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. In final...
Yeah, and so and Pete Hegseth was, again, he stayed cool throughout all of this, but Tim Kaine was just being vile. He was just being vile. And he said, you've been unfaithful to your wife. How could you can't lead the Department of Defense? Oh, really? Infidelity is disqualifying? What's going to happen to the entirety of Washington if that's the rule?
Completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you were...
This is the party that aborts 1 billion children. Excuse me, not quite. They're on their way. 1 million a year.
Completely cleared.
Senator,
how is that a complete clear?
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth.
By the way, Tim Kaine, what Democrat president is he most famous for being really, really close to? Who is that? Gosh, it's somewhere in my head. Oh, that's right, Bill Clinton. This guy is such a windbag. It's unbelievable.
Complete clear.
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was, and you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Those were false charges.
Well,
it was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared.
What a vile human being. Anyway, here's a flashback. Here's Tim Kaine saying that the Bill Clinton-Monica Lewinsky thing is nothing.
And when I'm talking to people on the campaign trail, they're not asking me about old controversies. They're asking me about tomorrow. What are we going to do tomorrow to have an economy that works for people, to have a stronger security posture?
That's an interesting principle. What about the future of the Defense Department? How about we talk about that instead of all these old controversies?
Stronger alliances. And I hear a lot, what are we going to do to make sure we have a community that respects all? So, past controversies aren't that important to me now.
Yeah.
What a jerk. Markwayne Mullin let all these idiots have it today, and good for him.
The senator from Virginia starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to...
I think he's confusing. Maybe Tim Kaine did talk about drunkenness or something, but it was Mazie Hirono who famously did that today.
Vote at night?
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be stepping all over this great delivery, though. One more time for you.
The senator from Virginia starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. We've all made mistakes.
Yeah, it was a pretty good delivery. Give me a joke is not really an expression, but he was working on it. He was doing good. I think this is a round of applause to Markwayne Mullin today. And he says, we've all made mistakes.
We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And Jennifer, thank you for loving him through that mistake. Because the only reason why I'm here and not in prison is because my wife loved me too. I have changed, but I'm not perfect. But I found somebody that thought I was perfect. And for whatever reason, you love Pete, and I don't know why. But just like our Lord and Savior forgave me, my wife's had to forgive me more than once too, and I'm sure you've had to forgive him too. And so thank you.
I kind of want to know more about Markwayne Mullin's hardscrabble upbringing. I'd like to, right? Were you aware of his background? No, me neither. So I'll spend more time looking at it. Wasn't he the one who threatened to get into the fight with the Teamsters president? Was it the Teamsters guy? Yeah, who, by the way, ended up endorsing Trump. What an interesting world we live in. It's pretty amazing. Senator Tim Sheehy, Montana, Republican, had these questions today. Some of the only real questions that were asked all day of Pete Hegseth.
Pete, I'm actually going to ask you questions because I want to hear your answer. How many genders are there? Tough one.
Senator, there are 2 genders.
I know that well. I'm a Sheehy, so I'm on board.
Get it? He's a she-he.
What is the diameter of the rifle round fired out of an M4A1 rifle?
That's a 5.56.
How many push-ups can you do?
I did 5 sets of 47 this morning.
47. You're with it, right? You understand? 47. Trump.
What do you think are most important strategic bases in the Pacific?
In the Pacific, Guam is pretty strategically significant.
How many rounds of 5.56 can you fit into the magazine of an M4 rifle?
Depends on the magazine, but standard issue is 30, Senator.
And what size round does the M9 Beretta standard issue sidearm for the military fire?
A 9mm, Senator.
What kind of batteries do you put in your night vision goggle?
Duracell.
So right there, you're representing qualifications that show you understand what the warfighter deals with every single day on the battlefield. You understand what happens on the front line where our troops will be. And what happens, unfortunately, in this country is decisions made in rooms like this, bad decisions, end up in dead 17, 18, 19-year-old Americans. And those Americans rarely come from families that sit in rooms like this. They come from lower, middle-income families who sometimes the military is their only way out. And they join because maybe they want to go to college. Maybe they have no other choice. Maybe they love this country. But for whatever reason, they joined and they sat on the dotted line. And when people like us screw up, they don't come home. And that's the one thing that I care about. As you remember when I shut the door, when you came with your entourage, Senator Coleman, I've known for a long time, and you and I sat together, asked you one question. You remember what that question was?
Are you going to have the backs of the warfighters?
Exactly. What is going to be your number one priority? And I don't care, frankly, what all these letters and articles say. I've been a part of a smear campaign too, I get it. I care that you're going to have one thing in mind when you sit in that chair in that 5-sided building, and you told me what that was. So with that, you have my support. I'm sorry you have to go through a process like this.
Yeah, a complete disaster as the Democrats try and ruin it. But meanwhile, Pete Hegseth is eminently qualified to do this. He's the right guy for the job. And the Senate, they better hurry him along. We need a Secretary of Defense. Some chaos today in a separate congressional hearing between Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Here's what that sounded like.
Somebody's campaign coffers really are struggling right now. So she gonna keep saying trans, trans, trans so that people will feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all to tell me whether or
Do
not
call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out
I am a grown
which
woman.
of those
I am 47 years
emails
old. I have broken
actually
more
have.
glass ceilings than you
Chairman,
ever
I
will.
am reclaiming my
Let's go.
time.
You will not do that.
Order.
I am not a
Chairman,
child.
I am
not a
reclaiming
child.
my time.
If you want to take it outside,
Mr. Chairman, the committee is not in order.
Order.
Point of order. Do you hear this at the end? If you want to take it outside, I'm ready, says Nancy Mace. I don't know. Would you pay for the ringside tickets for that? I would. Jasmine Crockett, Nancy Mace. Ding, ding, ding. Hey, we had, I must say, a lot of great conversations today. So many great guests, including the opera singer Christopher Macchio, who's going to be performing that national anthem at the inauguration on Monday. That was at the top of the second hour, 4 o'clock hour. If you missed it, I really encourage you, go back and listen to it. What a great guy. Learned so much about him. We learned a lot about President Trump and his love of music and his love of opera, go to the podcast. We've got the Vince Coglianese Show podcast. Anywhere you find a podcast, in particular on that WMAL app, that's where you also find the great one, Mark Levin. He's up next here on WMAL.